You know, there are moments in life that start out so ordinary, so perfectly normal, that you'd never imagine they're about to change everything. This is one of those stories. And I need you to hear it, because what happened on October 12th, 2024, in a quiet California neighborhood could happen to anyone. Could happen to your mother, your sister, your friend. Could happen to you. Picture this with me. The sun is setting over Riverside County, California. Golden light is painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It's that beautiful time of evening when families are coming home, when the smell of dinner drifts from open windows, when children's laughter echoes from backyard swing sets. It's peaceful. It's America at its best. And through this perfect picture drives Dr. Maria Santos. Now, let me tell you about Maria, because her story matters. She's 43 years old. And if you saw her driving that evening, you'd notice something special about the way she carries herself. Her back is perfectly straight, even sitting in her Toyota Camry. Her hands grip the steering wheel at exactly 10 and 2 o'clock, not 9 and 3. Not casually with one hand, but precisely, perfectly positioned. Her navy blue suit doesn't have a single wrinkle. Everything about her speaks of discipline, of excellence, of someone who takes life seriously. But here's what you would know just by looking at her car passing by. Maria Santos isn't just a doctor. She's a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force Medical Corps. 22 years she served this country. 22 years. Let that sink in for a moment. While most of us were living our comfortable lives, Maria was deployed to war zones. She's held dying soldiers in her arms. She's performed emergency surgery under enemy fire. She saved lives when missiles were falling from the sky. The ring on her finger? That's from the Air Force Academy. The calmness in her eyes? That comes from facing death and choosing to serve anyway. And tonight, after hours of classified briefings about how to save soldiers' lives in combat, all she's thinking about is surprising her teenage son with takeout from his favorite restaurant. That's it. That's the big plan. Just a mom wanting to see her kid smile. But 20 minutes away from Edwards Air Force Base, on a street called Riverside Drive, where it curves gently downhill, someone else is waiting, and his intentions aren't nearly as pure. Officer Kyle Henderson sits in his patrol car, hidden behind a cluster of elm trees. He's 36 years old, been on the force for 11 years, and if you looked at his personnel file, really looked at it, you'd see a pattern. 3 internal investigations for excessive force. Multiple citizen complaints. The kind of record that should raise red flags, but somehow nobody wanted to see them. Today has been a bad day for Henderson. His supervisor chewed him out this morning about his sloppy paperwork. His ex-wife called this afternoon, demanding more child support money. He's angry. He's frustrated. And worst of all, he's looking for someone to take it out on. So he sits there with his radar gun, watching cars pass by. A BMW sedan drives past. White driver in a business suit. Henderson barely glances. A Mercedes SUV rolls through. Blonde woman with kids in the back. He waves her on. A Lexus, another Mercedes. A Tesla. Wave them through. Wave them through. Wave them through. And then he sees Maria's Toyota Camry. His eyes narrow. The driver is black. That's all it takes. That's the only thing that matters to Henderson in this moment. His radar gun shows 38 miles per hour in a 35 zone. 3 miles over the speed limit. Barely worth a warning. But Henderson's hand is already reaching for his lights. This is his chance to feel powerful again. This is his moment. Red and blue lights explode across that peaceful neighborhood like fireworks. His siren wails. And in that instant, everything changes. Maria sees the lights in her rear-view mirror, and her military training kicks in automatically. Stay calm. Find a safe place to stop. Hands visible. No sudden movements. She's been trained for hostile situations, and something in her gut tells her this might become one. She signals carefully, pulls over beside Greenwood Park, and places her hands on the steering wheel where they can be clearly seen. Around her, the neighborhood stops. Children freeze, mid-swing, on the playground. Doors open on Spanish colonial homes as neighbors step out onto their porches. A retired teacher named Eleanor Martinez. A Navy veteran named James Wilson. A federal prosecutor named Diana Chun. A former FBI agent named Patrick Sullivan. These people know their rights. They know what proper police procedure looks like, and they're about to witness something that will haunt them. Henderson's boots hit the asphalt, and even the sound is aggressive, heavy, deliberate, threatening. He approaches Maria's car like a predator circling wounded prey. His hand rests on his service weapon, fingers drumming against the holster. Tap, tap, tap. The sound of barely controlled violence. When he reaches her window, he doesn't knock politely. He slams his baton against the glass. Bam! The sound rings out across the quiet street. Roll it down. Slow, he commands. Maria's voice is steady, respectful, professional. Good evening, officer. May I ask what traffic violation? License and registration. Henderson's voice cuts through her words like a knife through butter. And don't give me any of that educated attitude. That educated attitude. Those three words hang in the air like poison. Eleanor Martinez, standing on her porch 70 feet away, hears them clearly. Her hand moves to her phone. Something is very wrong here. Maria reaches slowly for her purse, announcing each movement like she's been trained. I'm retrieving my documents now, officer. Move real careful, Henderson says, and then he adds words that make everyone watching hold their breath. Your people always seem to be reaching for something unexpected. Your people. Maria's jaw tightens just slightly, but her voice remains calm. Professionally calm. Military calm. The kind of calm that comes from facing actual danger, not manufactured threats from insecure men. She hands over her license and registration with steady hands. Henderson snatches them away and examines them under the streetlight like he's found evidence of a crime. Dr. Maria Santos, he says, his voice dripping with mockery. Fancy title you got there. What kind of doctor? The kind that thinks she's too good for traffic laws. I'm a physician, officer, Maria replies with quiet dignity that would make her commanding officers proud. May I ask what specific violation you observed? Speeding. 38 in a 35. Henderson smirks, and it's not a nice smile. It's the smile of someone who enjoys having power over others. But that's just the beginning, isn't it, Doctor? And right there, everyone watching knows this isn't about a traffic violation. This is about something much darker, much older, much more painful. Step out of the vehicle. Henderson orders. Now. Maria complies, moving with careful grace. Even now, even with her heart pounding and adrenaline flooding her system, her military bearing shows through. She stands straight, shoulders back, meeting his eyes with dignity he doesn't deserve. Turn around, hands on the hood, spread those legs. The neighbors watching feel sick. This is excessive. This is wrong. James Wilson, the Navy veteran, takes a step forward, his instincts screaming at him that this is an abuse of power. Henderson positions himself directly behind Maria, close enough that she can feel his breath on her neck, and begins a pat-down that's more aggressive than any protocol requires. His hands probe through her jacket pockets roughly, invasively. I always find something with your kind, he mutters. Drugs, weapons, outstanding warrants. Your kind. There it is again. Maria endures a violation in silence, but inside her mind, she's cataloging everything. Every procedural error. Every constitutional violation. Every moment of this humiliation. She's a lieutenant colonel in the United States Air Force. She knows how to gather intelligence under pressure. I'm going to search your vehicle now, Henderson announces, moving toward her car. You got a problem with that, Doctor? He spits out her title, like it's an insult. Officer, do you have probable cause for search? Maria's voice is steady, professional. Correct. I haven't committed any crime that would warrant. Probable cause? Henderson laughs, and it's an ugly sound. How about suspicious behavior? You were driving nervously, avoiding eye contact. Classic signs of criminal activity. It's a lie. A complete, blatant lie. The dash cam in his own patrol car will later prove she drove normally, maintained perfect eye contact, did everything right. But Henderson doesn't care about truth. He cares about power. He begins tearing through her car like a hurricane. Insurance documents fly through the air. Medical journals hit the pavement. Her continuing education materials scatter across the asphalt like trash. Papers that represent years of study, decades of service, treated like garbage. And then he finds it, a leather folder with her military identification inside. But the light is fading, and Henderson doesn't look carefully. He glances at it for maybe 2 seconds, then tosses it aside like it's worthless. $20 says this is stolen valor, he says with contempt. You people love pretending to be heroes. If words could be knives, those would have cut straight to Maria's heart. She's held dying 18-year-olds in combat zones. She's worked 72-hour shifts, keeping soldiers alive during mortar attacks. She's bled for this country, sacrificed for this country, given 22 years of her life for this country. And this man just called her service, her sacrifice, fake. But Maria's spine stays straight. Her voice stays calm. Because that's what real heroes do. They don't break, even when someone tries their hardest to break them. Henderson pulls out her briefcase now, shaking it aggressively. Classified medical documents, real documents with Pentagon seals and Department of Defense markings, threaten to spill onto the street. What's in here? He demands. More fake certificates? Bet you printed these at Kinko's. More neighbors have emerged now. Phones are out, recording everything. Eleanor Martinez is filming. James Wilson is filming. Diana Chun, the federal prosecutor, is watching with growing fury because she recognizes illegal search procedures when she sees them. You think you're better than me, don't you? Henderson's voice has changed now, got more personal, more bitter, with your fancy degree and your doctor title. And there it is, the real source of his rage. It's not about traffic violations or safety or law enforcement. It's about a man who feels small. Try and make someone else smaller. I'm just trying to understand what law I've violated, officer, Maria says, and her calmness only makes him angrier. Henderson forces her through field sobriety tests next. Walk the line. Stand on 1 foot. Count to 30. Maria performs each test flawlessly. Her military fitness training makes them effortless, but Henderson shakes his head. Failed, he lies. Obvious impairment. That's ridiculous. Sarah Williams shouts from the crowd. She performed perfectly. Everyone step back or you'll be arrested for interfering. Henderson threatens, and now even the patient observers are getting angry. 15 minutes have passed. What started as a questionable traffic stop has become public harassment with clear racial undertones. The crowd is growing. The phones are multiplying. Social media posts are starting to spread. And then Henderson gives an order that makes everyone watching gasp. Get down on your knees, he says, right here on the asphalt. The command echoes across Riverside Drive like a gunshot. Children on the playground stare. Neighbors freeze. Even the evening birds seem to stop singing. Officer, that's completely unnecessary, Maria says, and for the first time there's a slight tremor in her voice. I've committed no crime that would warrant. I say get down. Henderson's hand moves to his taser, and the threat is clear. Maria looks at the rough asphalt. She looks at the gathering crowd. She looks at this man who has decided that her skin color matters more than her service, her education, her humanity. And slowly, with dignity that should shame everyone watching, Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos, decorated Air Force officer, combat veteran, hero who has saved countless lives, lowers herself to her knees on American soil. Sharp stones press through her business slacks. The cold pavement bites into her skin. Around her, papers from her car flutter in the evening breeze. Medical journals, Pentagon documents, proof of a life spent in service. Henderson stands over her, smirking at his growing audience, drunk on the power of forcing this accomplished woman to kneel. Eleanor Martinez has tears streaming down her face as she records. James Wilson's jaw is clenched so tight it aches. Diana Chin is already mentally filing federal charges. And Maria kneels there, hands visible, back straight, maintaining her dignity even as someone tries to strip it away. The sun continues to set over Riverside County. Children's laughter has stopped. The perfect evening has been shattered. And then, red and blue lights appear again in the distance. Another patrol car is approaching. Officer Lisa Rodriguez is about to arrive. And everything is about to change. You know what the worst part of injustice is? It's not just the moment it happens. It's the seconds that tick by while it's happening. When you're wondering if anyone will stop it, if anyone will care, if anyone will see you as human. Maria Santos kneels on that cold asphalt, and those seconds feel like hours. Her knees press against sharp stones. Her expensive business slacks, the ones she carefully pressed that morning before her Pentagon briefings, are tearing. She can feel the rough pavement biting into her skin. But here's the thing about Maria that Officer Henderson doesn't understand. She's knelt in far worse places than this. She's knelt beside dying soldiers on desert sand while bullets whistled overhead. She's knelt in field hospitals during mortar attacks, her hands covered in blood, fighting to save lives while the world exploded around her. She's knelt to check the pulse of an 18-year-old kid from Iowa who'd never see his mother again. So yes, she can kneel on the suburban street, but it doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Not her knees, her soul. Henderson stands over her like a conquering general, and you can see it in his body language. He thinks he's won. He thinks he's proven something. Around them, the neighborhood has transformed into something that looks like a protest. Except nobody's protesting yet. They're just watching, recording, bearing witness to something that shouldn't be happening in America. Eleanor Martinez, that retired teacher I told you about, she's 70 years old, and she's seen a lot in her life. But standing on her porch with her phone shaking in her hands, tears rolling down her cheeks, she whispers to herself, "Not here. Not in my neighborhood. Not anymore." James Wilson, the Navy veteran, has his phone up too, but his other hand is clenched in a fist so tight his knuckles have gone white. He served 22 years. Just like Maria, he knows that bearing, that composure under pressure. Something about this woman reminds him of officers he served with. Good officers, the kind who lead from the front. And Diana Chun, the federal prosecutor, she's not just angry anymore. She's taking mental notes. Constitutional violations are stacking up in her mind like legal briefcases. Illegal search, excessive force, violation of Fourth Amendment rights, possible hate crime enhancement. This cop just destroyed his career, and he doesn't even know it yet. "Stay down until I tell you to get up," Henderson says, his voice carrying across the street, making sure everyone hears his authority. And Maria stays down. Not because she has to. She could stand up. She could fight back. She could use her rank and her position and her 22 years of service. But she makes a choice in that moment. A choice that shows more strength than Henderson will ever possess. She chooses de-escalation over confrontation. She chooses to let the evidence speak for itself. She chooses dignity over pride. Minutes pass. 5 minutes. 7 minutes. 10. Henderson keeps searching through her scattered belongings, occasionally glancing back at her like he's hoping she'll give him a reason to escalate further. He's looking for drugs that don't exist, weapons that aren't there, warrants that were never issued. He's searching for anything that will justify what he's already done, and he's coming up empty. The crowd keeps growing. Neighbors are texting neighbors. You need to see this. Corner of Riverside and Oak. Bring your phone. Cars are slowing down as they pass, drivers staring in disbelief. This is Oakmont Hills, an affluent, educated neighborhood 20 minutes from a military base. This isn't supposed to happen here. But here's the truth that's hard to swallow. It happens everywhere. It's just usually nobody's watching. And then, like an answer to a prayer nobody dared to say out loud, a second patrol car pulls up. Red and blue lights paint the evening in alternating colors. The engine cuts off. A door opens. Officer Lisa Rodriguez steps out. Now, let me tell you about Rodriguez, because she's important to this story. 20 years on the force. Solid record. Fair. Professional. The kind of cop who actually believes in protecting and serving. She's seen a lot in 2 decades: domestic disputes, drug busts, real criminals doing real crimes. She knows what a legitimate police situation looks like. And as her eyes sweep across the scene, every instinct she's developed over 20 years starts screaming that something is very, very wrong. She sees a well-dressed black woman kneeling on the pavement, sees her torn slacks, her perfect posture despite the degrading position, sees scattered papers everywhere, medical journals, official-looking documents with seals and logos, sees a crowd of neighbors, phones out, anger on their faces, sees her partner Henderson standing there with that look on his face. That look cops get when they know they've crossed a line, but they're committed now. They're in too deep to back out. Rodriguez has been in law enforcement long enough to know this scene. She's seen it before. This is what abuse of power looks like. This is what makes good cops quit, and bad cops think they're untouchable. Henderson, she calls out, keeping her voice professional, neutral. What's the situation here? Henderson turns, and there's something in his eyes. Relief, maybe, that backup has arrived, or maybe anxiety that someone's going to see through his lies. Suspicious subject, he says, his voice rehearsed. Possible DUI. Resisting commands. Rodriguez looks at Maria again. The woman isn't swaying. Her eyes are clear. Her speech, what little Rodriguez has heard, is perfectly articulated. Nothing about her suggests intoxication. And resisting? The woman is kneeling on asphalt, hands visible, compliant as they come. Ma'am. Rodriguez addresses Maria directly. And it's the first time in 30 minutes anyone with a badge has spoken to her with basic human respect. Are you injured? Maria's voice, when it comes, is steady, dignified. No injuries, officer. Thank you for asking. That voice, Rodriguez catches something in it. The measured cadence, the formal speech pattern, the calm under extreme pressure. It reminds her of military personnel she's encountered over the years. Military people have a certain way of carrying themselves, of speaking, of maintaining composure. This woman has it. Derek. Rodriguez says, using Henderson's first name now, shifting the dynamic. Help me understand the timeline here. Walk me through the stop from the beginning. While Henderson starts explaining, lying really, making it sound legitimate, Rodriguez moves closer to Maria's car. Her eyes are scanning everything, the way good cops do, and that's when she sees them. Papers scattered across the ground, but not just any papers. If this story is moving you, then don't just watch. Do something. Hit that subscribe button right now. Not for me, but because stories like this need to be heard. Because the algorithm won't spread truth unless you help it. Because every subscription tells YouTube that these stories matter, that real issues matter, that we're not here for mindless entertainment. We're here to learn, to grow, to change. Now let's continue. She sees a letterhead with an eagle emblem, sees Department of Defense in official typeface, sees Pentagon on another document, sees United States Air Force Medical Corps on what looks like official correspondence. Rodriguez's heart rate picks up. She bends down, carefully picking up a laminated card that Henderson had tossed aside earlier. The evening light is dim, so she angles it toward the street lamp, and as the light hits it, the words become crystal clear. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos, United States Air Force Medical Corps, Pentagon Security Clearance. Top secret active duty status. The card falls from Rodriguez's hand, not because she dropped it, but because her entire body just went cold. Time seems to slow down. She reads it again because surely she's seeing it wrong. Surely this can't be. But it is. Derek. Rodriguez's voice has changed completely. There's an urgency in it now. An edge of panic. You need to see this. Right now. Henderson walks over. Still cocky. Still thinking he's in control of this situation. Rodriguez hands him the ID card, and she watches his face. She watches the exact moment comprehension hits him. It's like watching a building collapse in slow motion. The color drains from Henderson's face, starting at his forehead and spreading down to his neck. His hands start to tremble. The ID card shakes as he holds it. His mouth opens, closes, opens again. No words come out. This can't. He finally stammers. This has to be fake. People fake these all the time. Military ID fraud is... Derek. Rodriguez's voice is sharp now. Look at the holographic seal. Look at the security features. Look at the Pentagon verification code. She pauses, letting it sink in. That's real. Henderson looks at Maria, still kneeling on the pavement, then back at the ID, then at the scattered Pentagon documents, then at the crowd of witnesses recording everything. And you can see it in his eyes, the exact moment he realizes he's destroyed his life. Maria speaks from her kneeling position, and her voice has changed too. The submissive compliance is gone, replaced by something else entirely. Something that makes everyone listening stand a little straighter. Officer Henderson, she says, each word precise, each syllable carrying weight. I believe you have something that belongs to me. It's not a request. It's a command. The kind of command that comes from 22 years of leading medical teams under combat conditions. The kind of command that sends soldiers running into burning buildings because they trust a voice giving orders. Rodriguez immediately recognizes a shift. This isn't a victim anymore. This is an officer, a senior military officer. And protocol matters. Ma'am, Rodriguez says, and her training kicks in automatically. Colonel Santos, I deeply apologize for this incident. Maria rises from the asphalt slowly, with controlled grace, brushing the gravel from her torn slacks. As she straightens to her full height, everything about her transforms. The military bearing that she kept restrained for 30 minutes now shows in full force. Shoulders back, spine straight, head high, eyes clear and direct. Officer Rodriguez, Maria says formally, I am Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos, United States Air Force Medical Corps. Each word lands like a hammer blow. I have just returned from classified briefings at Edwards Air Force Base regarding military medical readiness protocols for overseas combat deployments. The formal introduction ripples through the crowd like an electric shock. Thank you for your service, Colonel. James Wilson shouts, his hand snapping up in a crisp salute despite his civilian clothes. Other veterans in the crowd follow suit, standing at attention, showing respect. 22 years she's served. Someone else calls out, 22 years, and this is how we treat our heroes. Henderson is frozen, the ID card still trembling in his hands. His mouth moves, but no sound comes out. He looks like a man watching his entire world collapse around him. Colonel Santos, Rodriguez says, her voice professional but strained, please accept my deepest apologies. This incident will be reported through proper channels immediately. The crowd erupts. Phones are up, recording from every angle. Social media posts are exploding. Air Force Colonel forced to kneel by racist cop. Lieutenant Colonel Maria Santos abused during traffic stop. Military hero humiliated in Oakmont Hills. Within seconds, the posts are being shared. Within minutes, they're going viral. Within an hour, they'll have millions of views. Eleanor Martinez steps forward from her porch, her voice shaking with emotion. I recorded everything, every word, every action, and I'm sending it to every news station in California. I've got it too, says Diana Chun, the federal prosecutor. And I'm personally filing a complaint with the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division first thing tomorrow morning. Henderson finally finds his voice. Colonel, I didn't realize the lighting made it difficult to see your identification clearly. I never meant to. The lighting had nothing to do with your assumptions about my character, Officer Henderson. Maria's response cuts through his excuses like a laser. Her voice is calm, measured, but absolutely devastating. Every witness here understands exactly what motivated your behavior tonight. And it's true. Everyone watching knows. This wasn't about traffic violations or safety or proper police procedure. This was about a man who saw black skin and made assumptions, who saw a modest car and decided the driver didn't belong, who saw success and education and dignity in someone who didn't look like him and couldn't stand it. Rodriguez pulls out a radio. Dispatch, this is Unit 247. I need Sergeant Thompson at Riverside and Oak immediately. Priority 1. Command presence required. Within 3 minutes, a third patrol car arrives. Sergeant Rebecca Thompson steps out. 25 years on the force, solid reputation, no-nonsense approach to police work. She takes one look at the scene, and her face hardens. Colonel Santos. Thompson says immediately, recognizing military rank when she sees it. She approaches with proper respect. I am Sergeant Thompson, Riverside County Sheriff's Department. On behalf of our department, I deeply regret this incident. Maria acknowledges the apology with a slight nod, but her eyes are steel. Sergeant, I appreciate your professionalism. However, this situation requires comprehensive review and accountability. Absolutely, Colonel. Thompson pulls out her notebook. May I have your contact information for our internal affairs investigation? Maria provides her Pentagon office number and military email address. I expect a thorough examination of Officer Henderson's conduct, his training records, and any previous complaints filed against him. Henderson tries one more desperate time. Sergeant Thompson, I followed standard procedures. The lighting conditions. Officer Henderson, be quiet. Thompson's voice cracks like a whip. Your body camera recorded everything. The evidence will speak for itself. Rodriguez steps forward. Sergeant, Colonel Santos's military credentials were clearly visible. Officer Henderson dismissed them as fake, without proper examination. He used racially charged language. He forced her to kneel on public pavement for an alleged 3-mile-per-hour speeding violation. Each fact lands like a stone dropping into water, ripples spreading outward. Thompson's face grows darker with each revelation. She turns to Henderson. Officer Henderson, you are hereby suspended from active duty pending internal affairs investigation. Surrender your service weapon, badge, and body camera. Now! Henderson's hands shake as he unclips his badge. 24 hours ago, he wore it with authority. Now he removes it like he's removing his own skin. His law enforcement career, 11 years of service, for whatever it's worth, is effectively over. Sergeant, this seems excessive. Henderson tries weakly. I made an honest mistake. Honest mistake? Thompson's voice rises, barely containing her fury. You force a United States Air Force lieutenant colonel to kneel on public pavement based on the color of her skin. There's nothing honest about that mistake. The crowd murmurs approval. This is what they came out to see. Not just a confrontation, but accountability. Justice. The thing that's been missing from too many of these encounters. Thompson turns back to Maria. Colonel Santos, would you be willing to provide a formal statement for our investigation? I will cooperate fully with appropriate authorities, Maria says, her voice carrying the weight of someone who knows her rights and her worth. I also intend to file complaints with federal agencies regarding civil rights violations. A news van pulls up to the scene, satellite dish extending toward the darkening sky. A reporter jumps out, camera crew scrambling behind her. Colonel Santos. The reporter calls out, would you be willing to comment on tonight's incident? Maria turns, and in the glow of the street lights and the harsh glare of the camera lights, she delivers words that will be replayed on every news channel in America. I served this country for 22 years to protect the constitutional rights of all Americans. No citizen, regardless of the color of their skin, should endure what happened here tonight. This isn't about me. It's about whether we mean it when we say liberty and justice for all. The camera captures everything. Her torn slacks, her composed face, her military bearing, her unshakable dignity. Behind her, Henderson stands stripped of his badge and weapon, a shell of the man who'd felt so powerful 30 minutes ago. The evening has grown dark now. Streetlights cast long shadows across Riverside Drive. Children have been called inside by parents who witness something they'll need to explain later. But the crowd hasn't dispersed. If anything, it's grown larger. People are coming from blocks away, drawn by the social media posts, by the news vans, by the sense that something significant is happening here. As Maria finally gets back into her Toyota Camry, her documents gathered, her dignity intact, her bearing unbroken, she looks one more time at Officer Henderson. He can't meet her eyes. She starts her engine, signals carefully, and drives away at exactly the speed limit. Behind her, the neighborhood she left behind will never be quite the same. The story spreading across the internet will spark a reckoning. And Officer Kyle Henderson's life, as he knew it, is over. But Maria, she's driving home to surprise her son with takeout, because that's what she came here to do. And nobody, not Henderson, not prejudice, not injustice itself, is going to take that simple joy away from her. The storm is just beginning. You know what happens after the cameras stop rolling? After the viral videos fade from the trending page? After everyone's moved on to the next outrage, the next headline, the next thing to be angry about for 5 minutes before forgetting? That's when the real work begins. That's when you find out if justice is just a word we say or something we actually mean. Let me tell you what happened next. 48 hours after that evening on Riverside Drive, Detective Sarah Kim sits in the sterile office at Internal Affairs, surrounded by filing cabinets that tell stories nobody wants to hear. She's pulling Kyle Henderson's personnel file, and with each page she turns, her jaw gets tighter. 3 previous excessive force complaints. 2 racial profiling incidents that were mysteriously resolved with minimal investigation. Multiple citizen complaints about hostile behavior toward minorities. Written warnings that were filed and forgotten. A pattern so clear, so obvious, that you'd have to be willfully blind not to see it. How did this guy stay on the force? Kim mutters to herself, but she knows the answer. Everyone knows the answer. It's the same reason bad teachers keep teaching, bad doctors keep practicing, bad people keep getting second chances they don't deserve. Because institutions protect their own, even when they shouldn't. Her assistant knocks on the door. Detective Kim, we have another witness coming forward. Maria Gonzalez. Traffic stop from 2021. Says Officer Henderson used similar language, similar intimidation tactics. Then another, and another. Once Maria Santos' story went public, it was like opening floodgates. Victims who'd stayed silent because they thought nobody would believe them, because they thought it was just their word against the cops, because they were scared. They're finding courage now. They're speaking up. Kim picks up her phone and dials a number she hoped she'd never have to use. Agent Thompson? FBI Civil Rights Division? Yeah, it's Detective Kim from Riverside County. We need federal involvement. This goes way deeper than one incident. Meanwhile, CNN's morning broadcast opens with Maria's face filling the screen. The video from that night, Maria kneeling on asphalt, maintaining her dignity while Henderson looms over her, plays on repeat across every news network in America. By noon, the Pentagon issues a statement. The treatment of Lieutenant Colonel Santos represents an attack on every service member who dedicates their life to protecting American freedoms. We demand full accountability and systemic reform. By evening, Defense Secretary James Mitchell appears on NBC Nightly News, his face stern, his words carefully chosen. When our officers face this treatment at home, after serving with honor overseas, it undermines everything they fight for. This isn't just about one incident. This is about who we are as a nation. The Washington Post editorial board publishes a piece titled, "When Service to Country is Enough: The Maria Santos Case and America's Reckoning with Racial Bias." The article connects her treatment to broader patterns, to systemic issues, to questions we've been avoiding for far too long. Federal prosecutors review the body camera footage. The footage Henderson thought would protect him, but instead becomes the evidence that destroys him. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jennifer Walsh watches it for the fifth time, her anger crystallizing into legal strategy with each viewing. This is textbook deprivation of rights under color of law. Walsh tells her team, "We're filing federal hate crime charges alongside the civil rights violations. I want maximum penalties. I want this to send a message that we mean business." Maria, meanwhile, has retained Marcus Thompson, a former military JAG officer who now specializes in civil rights litigation. His reputation makes police departments tremble. When Marcus Thompson takes your case, they know you're not playing around. "Colonel," Thompson says, spreading documents across his conference table, "we're filing a comprehensive federal lawsuit against Henderson and the department. The evidence is overwhelming. Body camera footage, witness testimonies, his history of complaints. We have him dead to rights." "This isn't about the money," Maria says quietly. "I want systemic change." "You'll get both," Thompson promises. 6 months later, the federal courthouse in Sacramento is packed. United States versus Kyle Henderson draws national attention. Veterans groups fill entire rows, many wearing their dress uniforms. Civil rights organizations are there. Journalists crowd the press section. The courtroom is so full that people are standing in the hallways, watching on closed-circuit television. Judge Patricia Henderson, no relation to Kyle, presides. She's a Reagan appointee with a reputation for being tough but fair and absolutely zero tolerance for constitutional violations. "Officer Henderson," Judge Henderson's voice rings through the silent courtroom, "you are charged with deprivation of rights under color of law, a federal felony carrying up to 10 years imprisonment. How do you plead?" "Not guilty, Your Honor." Henderson's voice is barely a whisper. His defense attorney, Robert Klein, tries his best. "Your Honor, my client made errors in judgment under difficult circumstances. The lighting conditions that evening made proper identification challenging. There was no malicious intent. But the prosecution destroys his defense within the first hour of trial. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Prosecutor Walsh begins her opening statement. The defense will try to tell you this was about lighting, about confusion, about honest mistakes. She pauses, letting that sink in. But let me show you what this case is really about. The lights dim. The body camera footage plays on a large screen. Every member of the jury watches Maria's respectful compliance. They hear Henderson's hostile tone. They hear the words, "your people" and "your kind." They see him toss aside her military credentials without looking. They watch him force her to her knees. When the lights come back up, several jurors are wiping their eyes. Maria takes the witness stand wearing her Air Force dress uniform, her chest displaying 22 years of ribbons and medals. The visual impact is devastating. Here sits a decorated combat veteran, a woman who saved lives under enemy fire, a hero by any definition. "Colonel Santos," Walsh asks gently, "why did you comply with Officer Henderson's order to kneel?" Maria's answer is quiet but powerful. "I knelt on that road not because I had to, but because I chose de-escalation over confrontation. I've been in real combat situations, and I know how to assess threats. Officer Henderson was escalating, and I made a tactical decision to protect everyone present, including him, by remaining calm and compliant." She pauses, and her next words echo through the courtroom. "But I will not kneel for injustice itself. That's why I'm here." The defense tries to cross-examine, to poke holes in her testimony, but it's like trying to punch through steel. Maria's answers are clear, consistent, unshakable. Expert witnesses testify next. Dr. Robert Martinez, a former police chief with 30 years of experience, takes a stand. Officer Henderson violated every standard of constitutional policing, Dr. Martinez states flatly. His conduct represents a textbook case of civil rights violations. The racial language, the excessive force for a minor traffic violation, the illegal search, forcing her to kneel. Any one of these would be grounds for termination. All of them together? This is criminal behavior under color of law. The prosecution presents the body camera footage frame by frame, dissecting each violation. They show Henderson waving white drivers through while targeting Maria's car. They document his escalating aggression. They highlight each lie he told. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Prosecutor Walsh delivers her closing argument with passionate conviction. Colonel Santos served this country with honor for 22 years. She deployed to war zones. She saved lives under enemy fire. She earned every medal on her chest through sacrifice and dedication. Walsh pauses, pointing at Henderson. And Officer Henderson dishonored his badge, violated his oath, and trampled on the Constitution he swore to protect. All because he couldn't see past the color of her skin. He saw a black woman driving through his neighborhood and decided she didn't belong. That's not law enforcement. That's tyranny. The jury deliberates for less than 2 hours. When they return, the forewoman's voice is clear and firm. On the charge of deprivation of rights under color of law, we find the defendant guilty. On the charge of filing a false police report, guilty. On the federal hate crime enhancement, guilty. Henderson's face crumbles with each word. His mother sobs in the gallery. His attorney slumps in his chair. It's over. Sentencing day comes 3 weeks later. The courtroom is packed again. Maria sits in the front row, flanked by fellow officers in uniform, a show of solidarity from the military community. Judge Henderson addresses the court, her voice grave. Officer Henderson, your actions that night disgraced the badge and violated the Constitution you swore to protect. You abused your power in the most egregious way possible. You targeted someone because of their race, and you forced a decorated military officer to kneel on public pavement like a criminal. She pauses, letting the weight of her words settle. This court sentences you to 5 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised probation. You are permanently barred from law enforcement in any capacity. You will never again wear a badge. The gavel strikes. The sound echoes like thunder. Henderson is led away in handcuffs, and for just a moment, he glances back at Maria. She meets his eyes with the same steady gaze she maintained that night on Riverside Drive. No anger, no triumph, just quiet dignity. The civil lawsuit settles for $2.8 million against the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. At the press conference announcing the settlement, Maria makes an announcement that surprises everyone. I'm establishing the Santos Military Medicine Scholarship Fund, she says. This money will support minority students pursuing medical careers in military service. What happened to me was wrong, but something good will come from it. Young people who might not otherwise have the opportunity will now be able to serve their country, regardless of the color of their skin. The applause is thunderous. But Maria isn't done. The case sparks systemic reforms that ripple across the country. The Riverside County Sheriff's Department undergoes complete restructuring under federal oversight. Body camera policies are strengthened. Footage must be preserved for 5 years, not 3. Cultural sensitivity training becomes mandatory, not optional. Community oversight boards are established with real power, not just advisory roles. California's legislature passes the Colonel Santos Act, strengthening penalties for civil rights violations by law enforcement officers and making it easier for victims to sue. Within a year, 12 other states passed similar legislation. Police academies nationwide begin teaching the Santos case as a cautionary tale. It becomes required study material, right alongside famous Supreme Court decisions. Young officers learn this is what happens when bias overrides duty. This is how one moment of prejudice can destroy a career, harm a community, and violate everything the badge represents. Maria testifies before Congress about police accountability and constitutional rights. In a packed hearing room, with cameras broadcasting to millions. She delivers testimony that moves seasoned politicians to tears. Power without accountability becomes tyranny, she tells the assembled lawmakers. But our Constitution remains stronger than any individual's prejudice. We have the tools for justice. The question is, do we have the courage to use them? The hearing leads to new federal legislation, the Law Enforcement Accountability and Reform Act. It's not perfect, but it's progress. Real, tangible progress. Kyle Henderson, meanwhile, begins serving his sentence at a federal facility in Northern California. Word spreads quickly among the inmates about what he did, abusing a military officer, forcing a combat veteran to kneel. Prison has its own code of justice. Let's just say Henderson's time is not easy. Maria's military career doesn't just continue, it flourishes. 18 months after that night on Riverside Drive, she's promoted to Brigadier General. Partly in recognition of her grace under pressure, her commitment to constitutional principles, and her advocacy for reform. The Pentagon assigns her to develop new training programs for military personnel interacting with civilian law enforcement. She becomes a bridge between two worlds, using her experience to create understanding where there was once only friction. She speaks at police academies, at military bases, at law schools. Her message is always the same. Every badge represents a sacred trust. Honor it or lose it. Every uniform represents a commitment to serve. Mean it or remove it. 1 year after Henderson's conviction, Brigadier General Maria Santos stands at her Pentagon office window, looking across the Potomac River toward the Capitol dome gleaming in the morning sun. Her promotion ceremony was 3 months ago, attended by colleagues who witnessed her extraordinary grace under the most degrading circumstances imaginable. Her office walls display commendations from a career dedicated to healing and protecting others. But it's the small things that matter most to her now. The intersection of Riverside Drive and Oak Avenue features a bronze plaque installed by local veterans groups in honor of constitutional rights defended with dignity. Residents pass it daily, remembering. Eleanor Martinez leads a Maple Street Community Oversight Committee. Yes, it was named after her suggestion, ensuring accountability between police and residents. The retired teacher's natural authority makes her perfect for building bridges. Officer Lisa Rodriguez received a promotion as sergeant, her integrity during Maria's incident earning recognition. She now trains new recruits in proper procedures and constitutional respect. James Wilson organizes monthly meetings between neighborhood veterans and local police officers. The Navy retiree believes understanding builds stronger communities than fear ever could. The Santos Military Medicine Scholarship Fund has awarded its first 20 scholarships, brilliant young people from minority communities who will serve their country as military physicians. At their annual dinner, Maria tells them, education is the most powerful weapon against ignorance. Use it wisely to serve others. Maria's story continues spreading, not as a viral video that flames out and dies, but as a case study in dignity, in resistance, in refusing to let injustice have the final word. Students study it. Officers learn from it. Victims find courage in it. Social media campaigns keep her message alive. Hashtag dignity under pressure. Hashtag constitutional rights. Hashtag service matters. The message reaches millions of Americans who find inspiration in her example. On a quiet Tuesday morning, almost exactly 2 years after that fateful traffic stop, Maria addresses a graduating class of Air Force medical students. The auditorium is packed. Young faces look up at her with hope and determination. They forced me to kneel that night, she tells them, her voice clear and strong. But they couldn't make me surrender my dignity or my commitment to justice. Every day since, I've chosen to serve, not for recognition, not for revenge, but for promise America represents to every citizen willing to defend it. She pauses, looking at each young face. That promise is imperfect. It's been broken and betrayed more times than we can count. But it's still worth fighting for. Still worth kneeling for. Still worth standing for. Because when we say liberty and justice for all, we need to mean all. Not just some. Not just people who look like us or think like us. All. The applause starts slowly, then builds like a wave, washing over her. Students stand cheering, crying, believing. After her speech, a young black woman approaches, a first-year medical student with tears streaming down her face. "General Santos," she says, her voice shaking, "I almost didn't apply to the Air Force Academy. I didn't think someone like me belonged. But then I saw your story. I saw what you did, how you never broke, how you turned something terrible into something beautiful. And I thought, if she can do that, maybe I can too." Maria takes the young woman's hands in hers. "What's your name?" "Lieutenant Jasmine Crawford, ma'am." "Lieutenant Crawford," Maria says gently, "you belong here. You've always belonged here. Don't let anyone, not Henderson, not prejudice, not fear, tell you otherwise. This uniform is yours to wear with pride." They embrace, and in that moment, Maria knows. This is why she didn't break. This is why she maintained her dignity. This is why she fought for justice instead of just moving on. Because Jasmine Crawford needs to see that it's possible. That dignity wins. That justice matters. That one person standing firm can change the world. That evening, Maria drives home through Oakmont Hills. She passes the intersection where it happened, and she doesn't speed up or look away. She drives exactly the speed limit, hands at 10 and 2, just like she did that night. But this time, when she sees a patrol car, the officer waves respectfully. This time, neighbors on their porches smile and wave. This time, she drives through her neighborhood knowing she belongs, not because someone gave her permission, but because she never needed it in the first place. She pulls into her driveway. Her son runs out to greet her, 17 now, taller than she is, heading to college next year on an academic scholarship. "Mom," he calls out, "there's a package for you. It's from the White House." Inside is an invitation. The president wants to honor her at a ceremony for Americans who've shown extraordinary courage in defense of constitutional rights. Maria sets the invitation on her kitchen counter and pulls out her phone. She texts her lawyer, Marcus Thompson, "Another speaking engagement. Are you available to advise?" His response is immediate. "Always. You're changing the world, Colonel. Keep going." She looks at her reflection in the kitchen window. Same woman who knelt on that asphalt 2 years ago. Same dignity. Same strength. But something's different now. She's not carrying anger anymore. She's carrying purpose. And that makes all the difference. As the sun sets over Riverside County, painting the sky in shades of gold and purple, Maria Santos, Brigadier General, combat veteran, survivor, warrior, healer, sits down at dinner with her son and tells him about her day. Just a mom who served her country. Just a woman who refused to break. Just a human being who proved that dignity is stronger than hate, that justice is possible, that one moment doesn't define you. Your response to it does. Officer Kyle Henderson sits in his prison cell, 5 years stretching ahead of him like an eternity. His badge is gone. His career is over. His prejudice cost him everything. But Maria Santos? She's just getting started. Because this is what victory looks like. Not revenge, not destruction, but transformation. Taking the worst moment of your life and turning it into a catalyst for change. Taking your pain and making it mean something. That night on Riverside Drive, Henderson thought he was powerful because he could make someone kneel. But Maria proved that real power comes from standing back up, from fighting back with dignity instead of violence, from choosing justice over bitterness, from serving others even when they don't serve you. She chose to kneel that night to de-escalate. She chose to stand afterward to demonstrate. She chooses to serve every day to inspire. And across America, in police academies and military bases, in law schools and living rooms, her story echoes. They forced her to kneel, but they couldn't make her break. And because she didn't break, she changed the world. That's the promise of America. Not that injustice won't happen. It will. Not that prejudice doesn't exist, It does, but that when it happens, we have the tools to fight back. We have the Constitution. We have each other. We have voices that can speak truth to power. And we have people like Maria Santos, who remind us that dignity is a choice, justice is possible, and one person standing firm can move mountains. So the next time you see injustice, remember her. Remember that you don't have to fight with fists to be strong. You don't have to hate to resist. You don't have to break to survive. You just have to stand. Keep standing. Never stop standing. Because that's how we win. Not by becoming what we hate, but by being better than what tried to destroy us. Maria Santos knelt on American soil that October evening, but she never, ever bowed. And that made all the difference. Hey, before you go, pause for a second. If the story stirred something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Like it, share it, and subscribe to the Story Veranda, because that simple act might help another soul remember that hope is still alive.